Sandra, let's bring in Wyoming Senator John Barrasso, who is also the chairman of the Senate Republican Conference and a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Let me play just a little bit more of what President Biden said in terms of what his goals are for his visit to Saudi Arabia. Listen here.
We've made a mistake of walking away from our influence in the Middle East. I'm going to be meeting with 9 other heads of state. I want to make clear that we can continue to lead in the region and not create a vacuum that is filled by China and or Russia against the interest of both Israel and the United States.
Senator, what he said at the very beginning there, we made a mistake of walking away from our influence in the Middle East. Who walked away from U.S. influence in the Middle East? Certainly not President Trump. He was fully engaged in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's Joe Biden. And the problem is you see him there. He is a weakened president going overseas, representing the United States as commander-in-chief. But yet he's weakened the headlines. Every newspaper in America today, soaring inflation. Every headline last weekend in the United States, sinking poll numbers for the president. You want him to go over from a position of strength, but he brought this on himself. He's taken us from a country of energy dominance to energy dependence. So people know around the country why he's really there. He's looking for oil to bring back to the United States to try to bring down the cost of energy when we have plenty of it here. We ought to be exploring for that energy offshore, on public lands, and in Alaska. That's what I'd like to hear the President of the United States say to the people of America.
You know, back on this idea of walking away from our influence in the Middle East during the 2020 election campaign, then candidate Biden, not O'Biden, vowed that he was going to make Saudi Arabia a pariah. That would seem to be the very definition of walking away from our influence and strategic partnership with Saudi Arabia.
Well, I agree completely. That's the way I hear it as well. We've had a long-term relationship with Saudi Arabia in terms of security, in terms of Iran, in terms of energy. And one of the real challenges in foreign relations, and I'm on the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate, is if you have a country and a relationship with a country where your interests are the same, but your values are not necessarily the same. And that's the situation with Saudi Arabia. So they have a new crown prince. He's young, I think 36 years old. And they have been more aligning with Russia, with China, in terms of weapons, drones from China, in terms of bringing Russia into OPEC. So we've had this long-term relationship, and the president goes and decides to call him a pariah, and now he wants to become a partner. I would just give one bit of advice to President Biden, 79 years old, with a 36-year-old crown prince. Please do not say, let me give you a little fatherly advice. That will not go well.
All right, so there are human rights concerns with Saudi Arabia, to be sure. The killing of Jamal Khashoggi was abhorrent. But on the other hand, Saudi Arabia, as you point out, is a very valuable and important strategic partnership. So how do you take into account all of those things in the relationship?
Well, as I said, that is the most challenging part of foreign relations, doing those things, working your way through the relationship. You want to maintain the long-term relationship in spite of terrible behavior by one partner on an issue, and the entire United States Senate, 100-0, condemned that activity against Khashoggi.
Press conference this morning in Israel with Yair Lapid, the caretaker prime minister in Israel, and the president, where there appeared to be a real split over the approach to Iran. Listen to this exchange here.
We made it absolutely clear. We will not, let me say it again, we will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
Words will not stop them, Mr. President. Diplomacy will not stop them. The only way to stop them is to put a credible military threat on the table.
Prime Minister Lapid was schooling him there. This is the way it happens in the Middle East, Mr. President.
Well, and rightly so. We know Iran. We know their activity. We know that they've cheated on the former Iranian agreement with and President Trump was right to pull out. I agreed with him. Now President Biden has been even working through Russia to re-bring on the Iran agreement, which I think would be a terrible mistake in for the United States to go back into. It seems that the president is so eager for a relationship with Iran and Iran deal, he's willing to pay the price of paying Russia and Iran to take a deal, no matter how bad it is for the United States.
All right, well, we'll watch closely, see how it goes in Saudi Arabia. We'll be watching you and some of your colleagues as well. You're headed to the border tonight, down south of McAllen.
Heading to the border. We're going to be with the Border Patrol, thanking them for the work that they're doing, trying to keep our country safe. You know, the President of the United States would rather scold the border agents or condemn them when they're out there doing their job, and he is not doing his job of protecting our country. And really, it's a dereliction of duty at the border by the President of the United States. He needs to go to the border. This will be, I think, my 5th or 6th trip. He hasn't been there since 2008. That has been just a drive-by. He needs to get there to see the havoc that he has caused.
Well, we hope to catch up with your group tomorrow. Good to see you. Safe travels.